Do you remember the Trump Cyrus coin that says on it, "And he charged me to build him a house in Jerusalem"? It has to do with President Donald Trump's father, Fred Trump. And I want to read this article from dnyuz.com, how Donald Trump's developer dad and a Brooklyn rabbi saved a synagogue. When congregants enter the Beach Haven Jewish Center in Gravesend, Brooklyn, they pass a small plaque hanging just outside the main sanctuary. It says, quote, "Fred Trump, humanitarian," end quote, declare the gold embossed all caps letters. Quote, "Let this plaque be a token of our sincerest appreciation, never to be forgotten, always to be a shining light to all men who have faith," end quote. The plaque, inscribed December 15th, 1956, is the most visible reminder of an unlikely and mostly unknown friendship between the Lutheran real estate developer and father of President Trump and this enclave of Orthodox Jews in Brooklyn. Quote, "I would say that the Beach Haven Jewish Center would not be what it is today if not for Mr. Fred Trump," end quote, Rabbi Shimmy Silver told the Post. "We are grateful for his kindness and forever indebted to him for what he has done for our community." In the 1950s, Brooklyn's Jewish community was exploded as new arrivals, many of them Holocaust survivors, tried to begin new lives. This presented a dilemma for Rabbi Israel Wagner, whose congregation was starting to outgrow the garage of a building in Fred Trump's Beach Haven development complex, where it had previously been meeting. So in 1955, he set out to meet the landlord. Wagner, a native of Poland, wasn't sure what to expect when he met Fred Trump. They had never spoken, and the rabbi only knew the real estate magnate by his tough reputation. The two hit it off immediately. Trump donated the land on Brooklyn's Avenue Z to Wagner's congregation. A deed of sale from October 1955 shows the land officially transferring from Fred to the new Jewish Center for $10. The elder Trump also financed much of the construction costs, as the new house of worship was born a year later. Trump and Wagner's mutual love, respect, and friendship only deepened over the next 48 years, reads the synagogue website, where the story is prominently featured. Inside a small synagogue archive, contemporary records and photos tell more of the story. Trump never missed the synagogue's annual fundraiser dinner, which he attended through the 1970s and 80s, often cutting checks for $2,500 and $3,500. Pristinely preserved black and white photos show a beaming Trump standing alongside Wagner, the man he called "my rabbi." The temple continued good relations with the Trump family, even after Fred Trump's death in 1999. When Wagner's widow turned 90 in Israel in the mid-2010s, Donald Trump sent birthday wishes, according to Rabbi Silver. Some older members still have memories of Fred Trump and his sons Donald and Fred Jr. bouncing around the old family offices just down the street on Avenue Z. As for current politics, Rabbi Silver said he was pleased with the new Israel security treaties secured by the president, but was otherwise mum, declining to opine about the next month's election. "We are a synagogue and Jewish community center. Our sole focus is strengthening the Jewish identity and observance of our community," he said. The post, "How Donald Trump's developer dad and a Brooklyn rabbi saved a synagogue," appeared first on New York Post. And of course, being a real estate developer, and his father being a real estate developer, it makes a lot of sense now why he would build the third temple, which could start out as appearing to be a synagogue on Holy Mount Moriah. Israel 365 wrote in October 28th, 2020, an article about it, and they said that there was a new ad highlights how Trump's dad built synagogue for Holocaust survivors. So Fred Trump is somewhat of a hero for building the synagogue for the Jewish people and donating the land. So the Israel 365 article said the American Liberty Fund has released a new ad highlighting how in 1955 Holocaust survivors from New York were forced to pray in a garage. It was then that the building owner, Fred Trump, came to the rescue and built them a new synagogue of their own, the iconic Beach Haven Jewish Center, which he sold to them for only $10. The ad then connects the stories of how just as Fred Trump constructed a synagogue for the Jewish people of New York, his son Donald constructed another building for the Jewish people 62 years later, the U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem. It ends with a call to re-elect Trump and vote to honor the loving legacy Fred Trump gave to the Jewish people by voting Trump for president. So it's interesting that, because Fred Trump took it upon himself to build the synagogue for the Holocaust survivors in New York, and he came to their rescue and donated land to build the synagogue on. It stands to reason that, 62 years later, his son builds the embassy in Jerusalem, and he's pictured as being the one to build the third temple on Holy Mount Moriah, on the Cyrus coin, where it says, like doves to their nests, and shows the third temple, as I showed you at the beginning of this video. A little bit more information about it comes from another Israel 365 news story that was posted July 15th, 2019 by Adam Eliyahu Berkowitz, and it's titled The Hidden Story of the Trump Family Rabbi. A remarkable tale of a half-century-long friendship may be the basis for the current warm relations. The background. The story began in the 1950s when Malka Weisberg's parents, both Holocaust survivors, immigrated to America from Poland. Her father, Rabbi Israel Wagner, got a job as the rabbi of Beach Haven, a newly established community in Brooklyn. Many of the people in the community were Holocaust survivors, while others had witnessed the horrors of World War II while serving in the U.S. Army. The community was praying in a temporary space, an underground garage, in one of the development's buildings. The rabbi decided to meet with the owner of the properties. Starting out building houses during the Depression, Beach Haven was the second large development venture for Fred Trump, the father of the young man who grew up to be the current president. A friendship made in heaven. The Lutheran land developer and the Polish rabbi quickly became friends at their first meeting. Basically, they became very close friends for the next 49 years, Weisberg told Breaking Israel News. Mr. Trump agreed to donate the land if the community built a synagogue on it. Their friendship seemed incongruous since their meeting came less than 6 years after the end of World War II and the Holocaust. Both of Fred Trump's parents were German, and what happened there with the Holocaust was still fresh in their minds. Mr. Trump was different. My parents went through the Holocaust and knew that Fred was German, Weisberg said. They certainly knew what Germany did and would never forget it. But when they saw Fred, they saw a good man, and they appreciated that. The friendship continued growing with time, a blossoming relationship. The Trump offices were in Beach Haven, and Mr. Trump would frequently stop in to talk to my father. They definitely discussed their pasts, Weisberg said. They spoke about family, a subject that was very important to both of them. They also discussed theology and religion. Trump's largesse toward the Jewish community was partly charitable and partly self-interest, recognizing good. He wanted to build the community and to increase its value, Weisberg explained. Mr. Trump was impressed by the idea of a Jewish community, families, a place of worship. He liked my father very much, and my father liked him. Their friendship was based on Mr. Trump's personal understanding that what my father was doing was a good thing. He also felt it was a good business investment, that a nice community would attract businesses and raise the property value. Weisberg explained that this was behind many of Trump's decisions. He invested in planting grassy areas. He also provided free transportation to the nearby beaches. But I definitely think a big motive behind his actions was in the verse about blessing Israel, Weisberg said unequivocally. Genesis 12:3, I will bless those who bless you, and curse him that curses you, and all the families of the earth shall bless themselves by you. From loose change collector to millionaire president. He was a very smart businessman and a very nice man, Weisberg said. This gave the president his start in business. A young Donald Trump was frequently seen at the apartment complexes collecting the quarters from the laundry machines, a project that was his grandmother's domain. Trump's connection with the Jewish community continued after the initial investment. Whenever my father had a congregant who was down and out, he turned to Mr. Trump, and he always helped. He was a very nice man and very family-oriented. He was invited to the weddings of me and my siblings, the wife. He attended the early fundraising dinners held by the synagogue, bringing his entire family. Malka, very young at the time, would say the Hebrew blessing over a large ceremonial challah bread, braided bread, presented at the beginning of the meal. Weisberg related how Mrs. Trump, a Scottish-born Presbyterian, was so impressed that she kissed her forehead. She was a very nice woman, and they were a very close family. Donald Trump was very, very close with his family, and it was clear he would go into the family business. Weisberg said he learned the business from his father, but it really took off under him. Importance of Israel. The president learned from his father to be a real lover of Israel. His father certainly was. This is something I think should be known, and the president deserves credit for the good he does for Israel. Until now, his track record seems to clearly show that the president is a lover of Israel, the same as his father. The source. It is well known that Donald Trump has been a longtime friend of Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Though this is clearly a manifestation of the strong political alliance between the two countries, it has its roots in the president's family. Fred Trump, the president's father, became friends with Netanyahu while he was the Israeli ambassador to the United Nations in Manhattan. The friendship lasted until Fred passed away in 1999. Rabbi Wagner and his wife attended the wake. Weisberg related how Donald Trump approached her mother, grateful that she was at the funeral. A revelation. Rebbetzin, you should know that your husband was not only a good friend of my father, but he was also my father's rabbi, Trump told Weisberg's mother. Weisberg now lives in Israel, and then young man she once knew is now considered by many to be the most pro-Israel president in U.S. history. I believe a lot of what the president does today with the Jewish people in Israel comes from how he grew up watching his father interact with the Jewish community, Weisberg said. This came from the warm relationship between Fred Trump and my father. A commenter down below wrote, amazing story hidden from sight. And so because of his generosity and compassion for the Holocaust survivors and their plight, Fred Trump was a bit of a hero to them. And now his son, Donald John Trump, the President of the United States, is a hero to the Jewish people in all that he's done for Israel and bringing the embassy to Jerusalem and declaring that Jerusalem is the capital of Israel, which It always has been. It's just needed to be finalized and said out loud. So now this gives us the reason why they would put President Trump on the Cyrus coin with a third temple on the other side of the coin. That he charged me to build him a house in Jerusalem because they were real estate developers and they helped the Jewish people in the past. And that is the greatest mitzvot, good deeds, that's cherished by the Jewish community. And for this reason, since President Trump is on the Cyrus coin with the third temple on it, it stands to reason that they believe that he is going to build the temple, or he is going to commission it and allow it to be built. It's been speculated that there might be hidden clauses that are not yet revealed within the Abraham Accords. And perhaps this incredible prophecy will be fulfilled in the near future. And if we're that close to the building of that temple, then we know that the Messiah is imminent. Just as the Sea of Galilee is overflowing with the rainwaters that have been heavily pouring down from the skies, which is the big major sign that the Messiah will appear when the Sea of Galilee is full. And so I wanted to share this hidden story that isn't well known, so you'll understand better why the Jewish people believe that he is for Israel and has tried his very best to be kind to the Jewish people and to bless them, as the Bible states. They list on the coin Isaiah 60, verse 8. Who are these that fly as a cloud, and as the doves to their windows? And when I read that, I'm just so blessed that the miracle of all the doves that came to my mom's house during the time I was writing the book and just overwhelmed us with their beauty, and they would call out and fly over us and land on the roof when we'd drive up. They would look down at us and we'd talk to them, and they were like the doves that nested in our bristlecone pine tree right across from the living room window. And my mother noticed that the female sitting in the nest, that the male would fly up with that long needle in his beak, and he would pass it to the female in the nest. It would come right up over her and pass off the little needle, and she would take it and she would weave it in the nest. And the two of those beautiful doves that were beloved of me and my mother, they laid 2 eggs in that nest, and it was the most beautiful thing to film and to see and to watch. And I'm so glad that my mother got the opportunity to see that. And reading this scripture about the doves in their windows, we looked out the window at them building their nest. And to me, that was such a great blessing and gift from God. And I just wanted to add that to the temple being built, the house of God, and that pretty soon the Lord is going to return. He's going to come to the earth and reign forever amongst his people. And I just think it's a glorious thing to see all of this prophecy coming to pass, and to actually see a coin after 2,000 years that has the Jewish third temple inscribed on it is very rare and prophetic for us to be seeing that with our own eyes. So, God bless my doves back home, and God take care of them, and one day we'll be together again. And maybe they'll fly to Jerusalem, to the house of God, when he's reigning forever from Jerusalem, from holy Mount Moriah. Thank you for supporting my channel and my work so I can expand for the glory of God worldwide. Thank you. And of course, the reverse is like doves to their nest, the picture of the third temple in Jerusalem.